Let's get it on!
Welcome, everybody, to episode 7 of Off the Ropes.
With John and Josh! Sorry.
I am Josh.
And I am John Lennon.
What?
Yeah,
Dude.
I'm John Lennon.
Are you trying to say I'm Yoko? You know what? No. You know, I'm sick of this. I can't take it anymore. I'm out of here.
But... Okay. Let it be, man! Come together and let's do this show! All you need is love!
You got any more?
I am the walrus cuckoo cuckoo.
You know what? Let's just do the show. Let's get it over with.
Imagine a show where all we have is peace. Peace, brother. Peace.
On today's episode, I'd like to do things a little different. I'd like to introduce a new segment to our show called Breaking Kayfabe.
Yeah,
Breaking
Kayfabe.
Where we talk about news and the such in the world of wrestling.
Some unforeseen developments. I'm sorry. Are you supporting Big League Chew?
No, man. Big League John McChesney.
I have one, but mine's better.
I like it.
Merry Christmas. Happy
Merry
holidays.
Christmas. And to
Okay,
all of
so
you,
sorry. Sorry. Go ahead.
just Merry Christmas to all of you.
For those of you who aren't Christian and aren't celebrating Christmas these holidays, maybe you're pagan. Merry Yule. Blessed Yule.
If you're Jewish, Happy Hanukkah.
And for those of you African Americans who choose to celebrate Kwanzaa, please email us. Tell us what it's all about because I want to know.
What exactly is it? I mean,
Do I get cake?
I'm really not sure. You got a menorah type of thing. Do you get presents? Is there cake?
I got a brownie.
You got a brownie, but I got water. So what's that about?
Well, you see, the higher-ups who actually put the show on, they respect me enough to give me a Christmas present. Don't touch my brownie. Did you... Ah! No, my hot chocolate!
Oh!
Yeah, I taught ya. Stick your finger in my goddamn hot chocolate again. Back to Breaking Kayfabe. Now this is where we're going to talk to you about some breaking news, interesting developments. Top of the list this week. Did you know that Stone Cold Steve Austin and none other than Dolph Lundgren are going to be in a new movie together?
Called The Package.
Apparently, well,
It is about
I can't read your chicken
It
scratch.
is about a courier from a local crime lord who must make a delivery of a mysterious package while being chased by a horde of unusual gangsters.
Why does this sound like it's going to be a great movie?
I don't know. I mean, Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, it is rated R.
So do not bring your little kids.
Comes out February 9, 2013.
Mm-hmm.
So to bring in the new
that.
year, come see Dolph Lundgren, Mr. Warning Shot himself, and the Texas Rattlesnake, Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Absolutely.
And that is the bottom line!
Because Dolph Lundgren said so?
There you go.
Absolutely.
Apparently, Tyler Rex became one of my new favorite wrestlers, well, former WWE wrestlers, because apparently he told off John Cena on Twitter. Apparently he recently said, and I quote, "He forced me to change my finisher or I'd be fired." Well, Tyler Rex, I am glad to see that you stepped up to the plate. I'm glad to see that he did something about this. Don't let John Cena push you around, because I'm pretty sure you can take that crybaby.
And finally on
Not to be
Breaking
confused with
Kayfabe.
CM Punk, who's a crybaby bitch.
Absolutely. Mick Foley has recently released a new children's book called A Most Miserable Christmas, starring
Really?
The Miz.
That is awesome.
It is available on Amazon.com and Barnes & Noble.
But not WWE.
Get it while it lasts.
I'd like to buy a couple copies of that.
And look, it sounded pretty interesting, I have to admit.
You know, it's kind of a funny thing, though, that you bring up Mick Foley, because today, Josh and I would like to start something that we've been talking about doing for a couple weeks with one another. We're going to do an installment.
Yep. It's going to be a several week long discussion of one topic. You know, you'll get several weeks.
Oh, we're going to bore these poor people.
That's okay. I think you guys will be very intrigued by this. Our topic will be The Attitude Era. This is part 1. Alright, so kick off the Attitude Era. It's, most people, the consensus is that it started in November of 1997. Some people will debate this. Most people will say that the Survivor Series of 97... Are you cold?
I'm a little cold.
Why are you so cold?
I don't know. Maybe because it's the holiday seasons and Santa hasn't brought me my coal yet.
Well, maybe you should just burn all those books that you claim to read.
I read, okay? I read like the first 3 sentences, and if it doesn't catch my attention, I don't see why I should have to get rid of the book. It makes me look smarter.
It's true, it's true. November 9th, 1997, Survivor Series. 2 things happened during this. One,
The Montreal Screwjob.
which we will talk about a little bit later. And this also noted the first appearance of the Attitude logo,
Or as I
shown
like to-
in a vignette during the pay-per-view.
Or as I like to call it, the chicken scratch logo.
Now, the first thing during the Attitude Era that we'd like to talk about were the Monday Night Wars. And the ratings wars that came with it.
Between WCW and WWF.
Now, the Monday Night Wars would go on to transform the WWF from their family-friendly programming to a more adult-oriented product.
Vince McMahon would shoot a promo and would pretty much state that they were going to change from the good guy, bad guy characters into more real roles, more roles that people could understand. Roles that wouldn't make you want to like or hate the character unless you wanted to. Hence the reason why wrestling became so real in the late 90s.
Absolutely.
And especially in WCW. Where there wasn't any gimmicks anymore. It was just you're whoever you are.
Absolutely. Now, this new territory of WWE, that they decided to go into, this was spearheaded by Vince McMahon himself and Vince Russo, which a lot of you might know from working with a lot of the other companies out there, most recently TNA, and now again for WWE.
He can't make up his mind whether or not he wants to work for the big guys, the medium guys. No matter who he works for, they're screwed. Mm-hmm. tell the joke you heard yesterday.
Which joke?
The one about this thing.
Go ahead. I don't remember.
Vince Russo, Linda McMahon, and some other person are on a sinking ship. Who survives?
Who was the third person? See, now this is going to bother me. It was Vince Russo,
Linda McMahon.
Linda McMahon, and David Otunga were on a sinking ship.
Who survives?
Who survives? Any guesses, anybody? Anybody? How about you? You?
No.
You?
No.
You?
You want to answer this one?
No. The answer to who survives? The entire WWE universe.
Boom! I mean, sorry, we sidetracked. We want to keep this under a specific amount of time. No. Go.
Alright. Now, the Monday Night Wars were a part of a larger power struggle between WCW and WWF to see which one was better.
Well, you figured. Well, WWF was struggling with trying to make their new product pushed over to the fans. WCW had an unlimited budget. Ted Turner would be like, you need money? Here's money. You need more money? Here's more money. They were getting up north talent like Hulk Hogan, Bret Hart, Ric Flair, the Macho Man. And they were sided with people like Sting and Lex Luger, and people who were already big and made a name for themselves. And now you've got all this unlimited budget plus that allowed for WCW television to actually take over the ratings and push WWF aside for I think it was 14 weeks.
Well, it was a lot longer than that. WCW rose to the top in the ratings in 1996 and remained above the WWF for almost 2 years.
2 years.
Almost 2 years.
Now, one of the front people...
And they never recovered after that.
That's true. That's
never
very
recovered.
true.
It was like June of 98, and they
Now,
never came back.
One of the set of the front people and the main pushers of the Attitude Era for the WWF, D-Generation X. Now, we've talked about them a lot. We don't want to really cover over them because we know you're going to start to get bored by these guys. But one thing a lot of people don't realize is that one of the frontmen themselves for D-Generation X, the Heartbreak Kid, the showstopper, the main event himself, missed most of the Attitude Era.
This is true. It was due to an incident at Royal Rumble in 1998 where The Undertaker performed a backdrop to Shawn Michaels, causing an injury to his back.
He herniated 2 discs and completely shattered 1. Keeping him out of the wrestling business until 2002 when he decided to make a return.
I mean, he went on from Royal Rumble to wrestle at WrestleMania 14, and this is when Mike Tyson turned on D-Generation X, causing Shawn Michaels to lose his match against Stone Cold Steve Austin. This also caused Triple H to kick Shawn Michaels out of D-Generation X, signaling his retirement from wrestling for the next 4 years.
Before he went out right away, he actually did the general commissioner for a little while.
Yes.
And then he left due to realizing he just couldn't do it anymore.
Yeah.
But it's really funny that you bring up WrestleMania 14 in Austin, because Austin, being one of the other guys who really helped to push the Attitude Era starting, at the Royal Rumble 1997, 97, he would go on to defeat Jake the Snake Roberts and deliver his most famous promo of all times, saying, well, you want to take this one?
You talk about your Psalms and your John 3:16. Well, Austin 3:16 says, I just whooped your ass.
The next night on Monday Night Raw saw the flood of Austin signs and wanting of merchandise. WWE was smart. They capitalized on this and just said, crank up the volume and run with it.
And to this day, you'll still see Austin 3:16
You still hear what chants every time.
Exactly. It spawned something that I don't think they even realized was going to be as legendary as it was.
The funny thing was, is that was one of the things that a lot of guys will tell you was awesome about the Attitude Era, was that they didn't just have gimmicks anymore. It wasn't gimmicky to have Stone Cold come out, run his mouth off, flip the bird wherever he wanted to, and drink some beer, because that's what he did. All you did was crank up the intensity. You cranked up the volume, and you had a really good guy. I mean, one of Stone Cold's best feuds was with none other than Bret the Hitman Hart. And in October 1996, Survivor Series, they had a match for the new #1 contender to the WWF Champion. And this here laid the groundwork for a year-long feud between the two. I mean, I don't know. I mean, like, Austin, Bret Hart. I loved Bret Hart as a kid, but now that I'm an adult and I've watched Bret Hart matches, once you've seen one, you've seen them all. The only good variant to it, I guess, was Austin, because Austin can give you straight brawler. He can give you submissionist. He can come at you from like 100 different directions. Now, absolutely. I remember personally Bret Hart having Stone Cold in the sharpshooter and Austin's face being covered in blood.
Oh yeah,
and the whole
an iconic image in wrestling history. You know, I mean. Another iconic thing in wrestling history was the WWF Monday Night Raw's very first appearance at MSG on September 22nd of 1997.
Well, why was this memorable to you?
This is because this is when Austin would go on to face Owen Hart, and he'd whoop his ass.
Yep, I remember that.
Went on.
That was after he had his neck hurt from Owen Hart delivering the pile driver.
Yeah.
He whooped his ass. And then Mr. McMahon came out. And, well, we all know Mr. McMahon would try to stomp Austin and be like, you can't compete because you're injured. And what happened there?
Stunner!
The first ever stunner to the boss. Therefore...
Which, if you've ever seen it, it's really kind of awkward looking.
It is. Vince McMahon, you could tell at the time, was starting to train to compete. But at the time, he still took the shot. And I'll give him that.
And the stunner itself wasn't as perfected,
no,
as it is nowadays, and it just looked kind of awkward. But still something. Maybe check it out on YouTube, see if you can find that. It's an interesting piece of wrestling history.
You got a lot of great things though between Vince McMahon and Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Absolutely.
Now Josh has a couple of his favorite moments. I have a couple of mine. My first one being the beer truck.
The beer truck, iconic. Now you think of Austin. That's definitely one of the things.
What was your favorite one? You made me put that on the list.
Was the Dr. Austin segment.
Would you like to talk about this one?
Where Vince McMahon injured, he's in the hospital. The doctor comes into the room. Lo and behold, it's Stone Cold. And what does he do? Beats the ever-living crap out of Vince McMahon, hits him with a bedpan, just goes to town on him.
Don't forget the catheter.
Oh, yep. It's just...
No.
So...
My other favorite moment...
funny.
From Stone Cold and the whole Vince McMahon feud is when he took the cement truck and filled up Vince's Corvette.
Yes.
The windows and everything smashed out. That's wet cement. You know that they wasted a car, but I mean, what are you going to do?
And you can't forget about Stone Cold driving a Zamboni down to the ring.
They moved the ring by like a foot.
I mean, that Zamboni ain't light, I'll tell you what.
Oh, well, one of the other memorable moments, I guess, would be the night that Stone Cold Steve Austin held Vince McMahon at gunpoint.
Ah, yes. Bang 316.
Gotta love
Classic moment for Austin and McMahon.
Sad part is that early or late 1999, Stone Cold Steve Austin would have to actually take a break from wrestling for a few months, as he would have to have neck surgery from the impact of the pile driver from none other than Owen Hart. Sadly, the wrestling industry also lost Owen Hart in 1999. Yeah. That affected Austin highly because him and Owen were good friends. Not as bad as the passing of Brian Pillman. But in the return of Stone Cold Steve Austin in 2000, we would see him teaming up with none other than Triple H and The Boss, forming two-man power trip, who would dominate through the Hardy Boys and The Undertaker and Kane, and dominate most of the tag team thing, and then they would split as the Invasion angle would start. But because we're talking about the Attitude Era and not the Invasion, I guess you're just going to have to look that up yourself for right now. Maybe we'll cover it later.
Maybe.
Now, as promised earlier, Josh would like to talk about his favorite moment in wrestling history.
The Montreal Screwjob.
Now, why do you like the Screwjob so much?
The Montreal Screwjob, it's one of those moments that's truly real, you know what I mean? It's one of those just like, those moments that you just can't believe would happen, but did. That's what I love about it. It's just something that it just, even to this day, it's like, you can't believe that something like that would actually go on, but it did.
Well, let me propose an idea to you before you start fully talking about the Screwjob and stuff like that. What if the Screwjob, unknowing to all the fans and stuff, was a work planned by none other than Vince and Bret Hart themselves?
I mean, yeah, that's a rumor that has been out there, and honestly, if the Screwjob was a work this whole time, I'd give them the hugest props in the world, because that is a serious long con to put on. I mean, to go through the years of them, well, if it was all ploy of them not talking, it's serious, it's hardcore, and I don't know, I feel like if that's the kind of stuff that they could do, then maybe they should bring that kind of creativity to the table nowadays.
Maybe. I'd like to see wrestling go back to an Attitude Era style thing. Absolutely. I think it would allow storylines to be better believed and bring some kayfabe back into wrestling. Because sometimes we don't get that anymore.
Now, for those of you who either don't know or are unclear of what the Montreal Screwjob actually was, it was when Earl Hebner, under orders from Vince McMahon, called for the bell as HBK had Bret Hart in the sharpshooter, even though Bret did not ever tap out.
After the match, after Shawn Michaels was starting to walk away with the title, Bret Hart would spit in Vince McMahon's face. There would be a little bit of an altercation, and it would lead Vince to saying, "I did not screw Bret Hart. Bret Hart screwed Bret Hart."
Mm-hmm. And the infamous Bret screwed Bret chants would live on for years.
Yep.
Now, this was one of the main starting points for the Attitude Era. It was this, the 96 King of the Ring, and the WrestleMania 14. Those were the three events that most wrestling fans consider the beginning of the Attitude Era.
Yep.
This also brought the creation of the evil boss character, Mr. McMahon.
Yes, because Vince McMahon went from being your colorful ring side by guy of color commentary to actual on-screen portrayal of a boss, which had not really been seen. I mean, WCW would start to copy it late 96, early 97 with Eric Bischoff joining the NWO. I see that as a shout out to Vince McMahon saying, hey, you can do it, so can we, and we're going to do it better. Because in all honesty, I didn't watch a lot of the Attitude Era. I was a WCW boy growing up. So for me, reading over a lot of this stuff as we're preparing to do these shows, I'm seeing the WCW comparison, and I'm like, no wonder why WCW held the comparison. With an unlimited budget, they were kicking WWF's ass. Absolutely. And, I mean, forgive me for all you hardcore WWF fans out there, and your Attitude Era people like you were a big Attitude Era guy growing up. When we first met, you were a WWF guy.
Absolutely.
So, for me, WCW, had they not did what they did, reviewing that Mick Foley was going to win the world title, I think WCW could have won the war.
And that's very possible. Very possible. Now, the next thing we'd like to talk about is the introduction of Kane. A big moment in Attitude history.
It was bad blood in your house.
Bad blood in your house. It was during a Hell in a Cell match between The Undertaker and Shawn Michaels. Kane came out, ripped the door off the cell, and proceeded to tombstone The Undertaker.
Yeah, and then he would tongue twisted. He would torment The Undertaker for months, building up to a feud at WrestleMania 14.
WrestleMania 14.
This would be
things happen at WrestleMania
This would be
14.
the first loss to The Undertaker by Kane. And I think that was like match 5 or 6 win for The Undertaker at this time. But this would be the first time Kane would lose to The Undertaker at WrestleMania.
Now, this feud led to some great moments in what was WWF history and now WWE history. Such as when Kane would go and lock The Undertaker in a casket and light it on fire.
But that was awesome because then afterwards, because that was the match with Shawn Michaels where Shawn got hurt, they dragged the casket up to the entrance ramp, set it on fire. Paul Bearer and Kane leave. They show them leaving the arena, and then as it goes off the air, people who were still in the crowd and for some footage that's been leaked on the internet, you see them open the casket and Taker's not in there. But over the loudspeaker is like a godly voice. You hear The Undertaker say, "Kane, this is not our last feud. And until I serve my purpose and beat you, I will not rest in peace."
And another thing that you see come out of this feud is the birth of an infamous match, the Inferno match.
Ooh. Now, for those of you who don't know what the Inferno match is, that is a match where all 4 sides of the ring are rigged up with a contraption that emits fire. And the object of this match is to fight within the ring and throw your opponent out of the ring and setting them on fire. Now, unlike the video games where you have to get it up to 500 degrees, yes, I've played this match 100 times. I've set him on fire like 8 or 9 times.
It's true.
Kane gets thrown out of the ring at one point, and Taker started, well, he had been doing it up to this point, but this was the first time you ever seen it to the extent of him diving out of the ring, and he like leaps above the flames, and it's awesome. It's a really great moment. I don't actually remember how they get back in the ring. This would be a really great time to have
our wrestling aficionado,
yes,
who has still yet to show his face on our show. I don't know where he is, but if you're out there, come on our show.
Good job.
I mean, we're here. We're not going anywhere.
But after the Inferno match, Kane and Taker, like Josh and myself, put all of our differences aside and formed it could possibly be known as one of the greatest tag teams to this day.
The Brothers of Destruction.
I mean, you look at it, you got 2 6'7", 2 6'8" guys, both of them pushing damn near 7 feet, and you put them on the same team. Only tag team that they ever fought that really had a chance was Chronic. And even then, by that point in time during the Invasion angle, which we're not technically allowed to talk about, when we're talking about the Attitude Era, they got their asses kicked because Vince didn't care about his WCW talent that he had purchased.
It's true. Now, eventually, Paul Bearer would go and turn on Kane, and the Taker would turn heel and form the Ministry of Darkness.
Now, with the Ministry of Darkness, though, that actually ended up pulling in some like new talent that WWE hadn't really seen yet, but had like misused. Is this one we're going to?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. He returned.
Well, you would start with this one.
Oh, okay. At Rock Bottom in Your House, 1998, Stone Cold Steve Austin would defeat The Undertaker in a Buried Alive match. But the only reason Austin would win this match is because Kane, out of nowhere, would tombstone The Undertaker and help him win the match.
Now, because of this, Austin qualified for the 99 Royal Rumble.
You know what's weird about that, though? I can remember not too long ago, like 5 years ago, The Undertaker versus Vince McMahon in a Buried Alive match, right before WrestleMania 20. And Kane would come out of nowhere to hit The Undertaker and chokeslam The Undertaker into the grave then, and he would win.
Well, they do say that there's a 7-year rule in the WWE, so as long as it's been at least 7 years, we're going to redo that storyline.
That was about that, too.
Yeah.
Wow, that's crazy. So it's about time for The Undertaker to come back and lose to another casket match, is what you're saying?
Now, The Undertaker would return about a month later, and he would utilize a darker druid-type persona.
I remember that.
And introduced his ministry, consisting of
the APA. Or at the time, I'm sorry, they were the Acolytes of Destruction.
The Acolytes. Viscera.
And the Brood.
Which consisted of Gangrel, Edge, and Christian.
Positively awesome.
Now, the New Brood, originally thought of as a clan of vampires, were more often than not described by announcers as just being people living a gothic lifestyle. Whether that's how they wanted it to be or not, that's how it ended up. They would then go on to do things like dump buckets of blood on their opponents.
I remember that.
You know,
the lights would go out, and when they
bloodbaths.
came back on, their opponents would just be covered in blood.
Yeah, and then in February of 1999, they would go on to feud with the Ministry. And after this feud, I ended up joining the Ministry. I mean, Undertaker gets everything he wants anyways in this company. So, why not that too? Now, Taker tried to get Edge and Gangrel to turn on Christian because of something that happened between Taker and Ken Shamrock and Christian not getting the job done. And Edge and Gangrel, they refused. They did not want to turn on their friend, on their partner.
Edge would be turning on his brother.
Yeah, on his brother. And eventually, Edge and Gangrel would turn on the Ministry. And the New Brood would go off and do their own thing.
The New Brood.
Or the Brood, I'm sorry. The Brood would go on to do their own thing. Now, Gangrel would eventually turn on Edge.
Yep. Inform the New Brood.
And try to get Christian to do the same.
Yeah.
Christian wouldn't have anything to do with that. He didn't
Yeah.
want to turn on his brother.
But
they'd go off and do their own thing. Gangrel saying, you know what, you don't want to be with me? I'll take the people who you've been feuding with, the Hardy Boys, and I will make them my New Brood.
Which, let's face it, that was a great thing for them, because at the time the Hardy Boys had been working with Michael Hayes. And they ended up needing a push. I mean, the Hardy Boys are great wrestlers. They've always been great wrestlers.
This pushed the Hardys into a very dark place, which I thought was very interesting for them. Something you didn't really see.
The only time that they had really been heel in their career until they later on turned in TNA.
Now, a few months, into this, you would see the Hardys turn on Gangrel, announcing that they were no longer the New Brood. They were the Hardy Boys.
Yes, sir.
And you really wouldn't see much of Gangrel after that. And, so a lot of good things happen in the Attitude Era. We don't want to overload you guys. That's why we're splitting this up a little bit. But, I'd like to think that with the Attitude Era came a lot of good things in the wrestling world.
A lot of new talent was pushed during the Attitude Era. A lot of guys who were still around to this day that you just kind of overlook sometimes.
A lot of great storylines.
That's very true.
Came out of it.
Storylines were so much more real.
Yeah.
But
some storylines that we're going to talk about upcoming.
Some things that really pushed the envelope of what was right, what was wrong.
Like the abduction of Stephanie McMahon.
That's
what I'm saying. Stuff that we're going to talk about in future episodes, like the abduction of Stephanie McMahon, and the McMahon-Helmsley era. Things like that. We're going to talk a little bit more about Edge and Christian and things like that.
We can talk about the first ever TLC. So join us in 2 weeks as we bring to you the second installment of the Attitude Era.
It's going to be great. If you guys have any questions or comments, if you want us to talk about anything specific that happened during the Attitude Era, please let us know.
Shoot us a couple of emails.
Comment, on our thing about it. Or, go to our Facebook page and just, leave us a comment there.
Call me on my cell phone, 716-951-0799. Call me. I'll take a phone call.
Yeah, absolutely will. Throw him a text. He'll take that too.
Definitely.
What does he care? He gets unlimited text. This guy don't care. Well, that about wraps up today's episode of Off the Ropes with John and Josh. I'm Josh.
I'm John.
Please check us out and like us on Facebook.
I just got my computer back. I've officially started following us on Facebook.
Excellent, excellent. Follow us on Twitter.
Still haven't started using Twitter yet.
Maybe you'll check it out. You can follow some people like Raven. Yeah, I know how you much
Raven's on Twitter?
Oh, you know it.
Aw, snap.
And even Zack Ryder.
Woo, woo, woo.
Woo, woo, woo. You know it. And watch all our previous episodes, all 6 of them, And subscribe to our YouTube channel.
Wait. It's YouTube.
YouTube. YOUTUBE. Did you get another virus?
No. Maybe. I got a virus protector now. Black Friday, it was $10. Walmart!
This has been Off the Ropes, and we hope that you've enjoyed. We
are down for the count. 1, 2, 3.
Peace.
Let's get it on!